Somehow, an Int8 version of FSR4 was leaked by AMD, making its way into the wild, bringing with it the chance to deliver higher quality AMD upscaling to a range of devices. It works best on RDNA 3 graphics tech, but it works also on RDNA 2, opening the door to FSR4 running on mobile devices from Steam Deck through to the ROG Ally, and even the new Xbox Ally X. It's not official, but it does work, and where we should expect the computational cost of the upscaler to be pretty high, but it may be offset to a certain extent by the fact that the rendering resolution we're using will be lower. Actually using FSR4 on the deck is super simple. Just install Decky and its OptiScaler plugin, plenty of guides out there to do that, add a launch parameter to the game you want to use FSR4 in, and then basically you're good to go. We're benching exclusively at 720p here. I switched my benchmarking game of choice from Horizon Forbidden West to Cyberpunk 2077, as this game is more manageable for deck hardware. I'm using straight medium settings here in all tests, unless otherwise indicated. But things aren't looking exceptionally great for FSR4 here. With the game on medium settings and the deck set to 720p, FSR4 only delivers a 16% advantage over native resolution rendering, while XeSS ups that to 33%. FSR3 is best with a 44.6% lead over native, which translates to a remarkable 24-point advantage over FSR4. The real news here is that the additional processing time for using FSR4 over FSR3 averages out at 4.8 milliseconds. So that's 4.8 milliseconds on top of whatever the computational hit FSR3 has. Ouch. Okay. You might think FSR4 has better image quality, right? So let's drop down a setting or two and see how image quality looks across the various presets as we attempt to claw back performance. Well, sorry, but the cost of FSR4 is so significant that lowering quality mode to balanced only yields a 2.5 FPS advantage, around 7%. Lowering quality still further to performance mode increases frame rates by 5.5 FPS, a 14.5% boost compared to quality mode. All told, the best we can do here is a 25% lead over native resolution rendering by using FSR4 in performance mode, which is upscaling from just 25% of the output resolution. Crazy stuff. Still, it did mean I could play Control in balance mode FSR4 with what are essentially console equivalent settings in their quality modes, which is essentially a low/medium hybrid on PC with medium RT. Engage the deck's 30 FPS limiter here and you're good. Yes, there can be some performance drops, but hey, the most impactful ray tracing effect in Control is present and correct and it looks great. But why choose FSR4? Well, let's look at this comparison. Ray tracing, extremely heavy, right? Especially on a Steam Deck. This scene here delivers around 21 FPS native. Control has its own upscaler, so dropping from 720p to 540p is a big win, delivering a 53% performance improvement. But FSR4 balanced is kind of like 423p, is comparable with 540p, and increases performance over native 720p by 85%, enabling us to absorb the hit of RT processing. Of course, we're injecting FSR4 here in place of DLSS, and OptiScaler can inject FSR3 instead. But weirdly, it's only 4% faster than FSR3 in this scenario. So FSR4 for the win, I guess? Not quite sure why FSR3 isn't a fair bit faster, but this is what the test came up with. One of the stated aims for FSR4 from AMD's perspective was to add good quality upscaling to its current range of mobile graphics, pretty much all based on RDNA 3.5, apart from some of the more bizarre entrants into the firm's Z2 lineup that are essentially respins of much older silicon. Still, Z1 Extreme in the Asus ROG Ally is RDNA 3.5, so let's dig in. Returning to Cyberpunk 2077, and initially some strange results here at 720p resolution, again at medium settings with the Ally set to 30W TDP. Only FSR3 offers a reasonable bump with a 24% perf boost, dropping to 10.5% with XeSS and a mere 7.7% with FSR4. FSR3 15% faster than FSR4. And the millisecond gap, a substantial 7.7 milliseconds. It's not much joy by using more aggressive upscaling either. You can get a 20-point boost to frame rate overall, but you need to drop to FSR4 performance mode to get it. This is not great, so I tried again at 1080p with more intriguing results at balance mode or equivalent in the case of XeSS. FSR4 is still at the bottom of the pack with a 28% increase in performance, rising to 35.5% with XeSS and 56% with FSR3, so that gives us a 4.5 millisecond processing time cost for the new AMD upscaler over the old. Man, FSR3 really is so fast by comparison, and that's the key area where I think FSR4 in its final form has to make some strides. Even FSR4 in performance mode can't catch up with FSR3 in balance mode here, but I'd say that the performance boosts here are pretty decent overall, and obviously there are image quality improvements, and certain games can look pretty awesome still, even in performance mode at 1080p. And here's one of them, as we look into practical uses for FSR4 then. I stayed with Cyberpunk 2077 and adjusted settings to FSR4 performance mode and chose the PC equivalent settings to the PS5 performance mode. And where Switch 2 had higher equivalent PC settings, volumetrics essentially, better suited to lower resolutions, I dialed those in instead. First of all, let's aim to target 30 frames per second with as close to a lock as we can get, and let's push through GPU-heavy environments from the Phantom Liberty expansion, then go for some needlessly provocative shootouts in the open world, a part of the game where the Switch 2 version tanks. I'm using FSR4 performance mode here, so effectively running a 1080p output upscaled from 960 by 540. Upscaling does tend to work well with Cyberpunk 2077. I think it's a genuinely handsome game playing out here that looks superb on the handheld screen. Performance-wise, it barely misses a beat. But the Ally has a 120Hz screen, opening the door to a 40fps performance mode if you like, but similar to Switch 2, we're just asking too much here and frame rates remain in the 30s. Ultra performance mode may well get you closer to that 40fps cap, but I thought I'd try something different and kick in FSR 3.1 frame generation, which does indeed work in concert with FSR4 upscaling. There are plus points and minus points. Can't say I was really bothered by the latency, which surprised me, nor was I upset by frame generation artifacts. Something seemed a bit weird though, and to get the closest I could to a VRR experience, the Ally has a VRR screen remember, I turned off VSync and recaptured. You can see the problem here on the frame time graph, it's not consistent, and across a small number of frames there can be anything up to a 12 millisecond variance. That is not smooth. Interesting nonetheless. So FSR4, impressive visual quality, works well on RDNA 4 in its FPS incarnation, and the Int 8 version looks very similar. Image quality differences may well be down to the fact that this is an entirely unofficial release of which we know very, very little. The fact of its existence, along with prior announcements from AMD about the need for a good quality upscaler for its mobile processors, suggests that the Int 8 version will appear at some point. In fact, here's a quote I got from AMD when I asked them about it. "We look forward to more updates to FSR4 this fall that will continue to improve gamers' experiences." Hardly confirmation of anything really, but maybe, just maybe, there is more to come.